This is episode 103 of the 99 Forever podcast. I'm Eric Friesen, and joining me for the 2025-26 Edmonton Oilers season predictions roundtable are three contributors to heavyhockey.com, Ryan Lotsberg, Bob Schmidt, and Raghu Sharma. Guys, great to have you back on the show.
Thanks for
Yeah,
having me,
thanks a
Rick.
lot, Eric.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Eric.
Yeah, for sure. This is always one of the most fun episodes for me each season, and I'm glad to have all three of you back this year to make our predictions and see how many we get right, or inevitably, probably a lot of them wrong. But I think we'll all be happy if we were even 50% on them this year.
Aiming high.
Yeah, that would be a win.
Each year I keep saying I'm going to go back at the end and check how many we did get right, and there's always one or two that stick out that I can do off the top of my head. But I think maybe this next summer I'll actually go back and track each one, and we'll get a percentage on how we all did.
Yeah, I'm
Tough
trying
to
to
agree.
remember. I'm trying to remember last year because the year before I said Booch would be a point per game player, and that one hit. Last year, I remember one of my big one was that all 12 forwards would be double-digit goal scorers. I think that
Right.
was close, but didn't happen.
Yeah, there's always one or two that really stick out. I recall Bob, I think it was 2 years ago, that said Leon would get into his first fight. So we're still waiting for
Yes.
that one.
Yeah, we'll have to do a reunion show to revisit these ones.
For sure. But, we're already 8 games into the Oilers season at the time of this recording. And since the Oilers play on Hockey Night in Canada in just a few hours, let's dive right into our predictions now. And we'll kick things off tonight by looking at the roster as a whole. 6 players who played for the Oilers in the Stanley Cup final back in June departed the organization over the summer. And while they added several new players, the new look Oilers don't have as much name value throughout the lineup as last year's squad. Ryan, after an offseason that saw plenty of change, how much better or worse do you think the Oilers are today compared to the lineup they iced 4 months ago?
So if I'm looking at the defense, it's basically the same as what we saw in the final. I mean, John Klingberg is not here anymore, but he's kind of been replaced by Alec Regula, who had a great start to the season, first couple games before he got hurt. So I view that as basically the same. I think the goaltending position, we ran it back with Skinner and Picard, but I think that it will get slightly better with the new goaltending coach, Peter Aubry, coming on board. But it's up front where the most changes happened. And I think that group is significantly worse than it was in the Cup finals. They lost 4 of their top 7 most prolific goal scoring forwards from a goals per 60 perspective. And they got replaced with, I mean, Roslovic would have been tied for first on the Oilers' last regular season at 1.17 goals per 60, but he's had one other year in his career where he's even come close to that kind of production at 5-on-5. Andrew Mangiapane would have been 7th on the Oilers with his 5-on-5 goal scoring production last season. And the rest of the new guys that came in are rookies and guys with limited to zero NHL experience. So it's magic beans and pixie dust, right? So that's a significant amount of scoring that came off the roster and not a lot of known value to replace it. So today, they're worse than they were 4 months ago. Having said that, I need to qualify that by saying I think they made some necessary moves, and it's important that we get some young guys like I Coward and Matty Savoy going.
And Bob, are you more or less confident in the Oilers' chances to win the Cup than you were a year ago?
I'll say less for a lot of the same reasons that Lotsie was just saying. I'm content with our decor. I'm content with our goaltending, especially with the new goalie coach, which I don't think we'll see a drastic change. We shouldn't expect a drastic change. We should just expect a bit more steadiness, I believe. I mean, he's barely worked a couple of months with the guys so far, and we're already seeing, at least in Stu Skinner, we're seeing some better movement. And I know that's a lot contributed to a weight loss and what have you, but I think the coaches has been giving him some tidbits on that as well. It's definitely in the forward area where we have a lot of, quote unquote, hopeful players. We're hoping Roslovic can push 20 goals. We're hoping Mangiapane can find, his goal scoring touch that he gave with the Flames a couple of years ago. We're hoping Savoy and Howard can make the adjustment to the NHL level, fairly quickly and play significant roles. So there's lots of hope. We still have our core. our core is the best core in the whole NHL, I believe, especially when you center around McDavid and Draisaitl. So I'd say we are a little worse than we were 4 months ago. But I'd say if I put a number to it, I'd say we're about 3 wins worse than what we were last year.
And Raghu, how do you think this current team compares to the 2025 Western Conference champions?
Yeah, I definitely agree with a lot of what Ryan and Bob said. There's a lot of hopeful plays here. I personally have to say, I knew there'd be a lot more growing pains just due to the fact that we've injected so much youth into our team. One of my issues with even going into the roster the way we had it last year was I was worried about being one of the oldest teams in the league and what that actually does to you. That can go both directions. We obviously made the Stanley Cup Finals 2 years in a row. But I think less people would have predicted we would have been the team that would have made it twice versus maybe Florida. I definitely agree. I'm hopeful for players like Savoy and Howard, and I really like the Mangiapane acquisition on July 1st. I expect to see growth in Podkolzin. Roslovic was a great acquisition, but still have to see how that chemistry pans out. And I think our record is also indicative of what this team is so far. 4-3-1 sounds about right with so many of the changes that have come up. Defensively, I agree. We're the same. We are called, I think, by the Athletic a top 5 D core. I still don't know if I see that with some of the mistakes
Actually,
our
the
guys
Athletic
make.
had them
But
ranked number 1.
oh, was it number 1?
Yeah.
Okay. So number 1, I don't know if I'd agree that we're number 1, maybe top 5, but
They were mainly doing it
yeah,
off the strength of the Oilers' top 4. If I remember the article, it said that Ekholm, Bouchard, Nurse, and Wallman is the best top 4 in the NHL.
yeah, yeah, that was the article I was referring to. So yeah, number 1. But I think one thing I would say is what I am hopeful for with this team is I've really liked what the Dallas Stars have done over the last few years, actually putting a lot of faith in their drafted players and injecting them into the roster. And I think through NHL experience is the only way these players actually grow. And it's something we've not done before. So that seems to be a different perspective that Bowman's taking over what Holland used to do. So it's 8 games into the season. I really hope we see a lot of improvement. But if changes need to be made, Bowman's going to work with the cap space that Connor McDavid has also provided to us. So it's another thing we'll probably talk about over the course of this podcast.
For sure. And I mean, on paper, this roster might not inspire as much confidence as last year's team, especially to fans outside of Edmonton that don't follow the Oilers that closely. But we already kind of talked about the Athletic. Dom from the Athletic projected that the Oilers would win the President's Trophy with 109 points this season. Money Puck also picked the Oilers to win the President's Trophy with 105 points. And Jay Fresh Hockey had the Oilers finishing tied for second in the league with 108 points. So several public analytics models expect the Oilers to be right near the top of the league this season, despite turning over nearly a third of the roster and some obvious concerns about their goaltending. But I think a full season of Jake Wallman on the back end is going to be huge for this team. I mean, just look at the boost he's given the Oilers since returning from injury. Matt Savoy and Ike Howard have a shot to replace the 31 goals that Jeff Skinner and Victor Arvidsson scored last season. There's only one goal between them so far, but I think you can see that it's starting to come a little bit. And Matt Savoy getting an opportunity on the first line last game to speak to what you're talking about in giving young players chances, Raghu. Same with Ike Howard. He's going to get a chance with McDavid tonight. So let's hope that leads to more opportunities down the road. And they've also given the team a lot more speed and youth throughout the lineup, which they desperately needed. I think a guy like Andrew Mangiapane should be able to provide some solid secondary scoring as well. Yes, losing Connor Brown was tough. I think that's the player the Oilers missed the most this year, and we can already see that through 10% of the season. But Corey Perry chose money over taking another run at the cup, which was baffling to me. And there's no guarantee that he would push for 20 goals again at 40 years old. But I would have expected him to come back on a sub $1 million contract. And unfortunately, he took the biggest deal he could get with Ken Holland in LA. Evander Kane, he missed all of last season, so they're not really going to miss his offense. And I think they needed to move on from him anyway. But above all else, the Oilers were without McDavid for 15 games and Draisaitl for 11 games respectively last season, and they still won 48 games. So if those guys are healthy all year, you'd have to think that that's worth at least five more wins if they're both in the lineup for the whole 82 game season. So yes, I guess we could say maybe they're not quite as strong today as the Oilers were back in June, but thankfully the Stanley Cup playoffs don't start today, and I think that this team will be improved upon throughout the winter as they gear up for another long cup run. All right, who do you think will be the Oilers' most improved player this season, and why, Bob?
Well, this first one is going to be kind of baffling, perhaps, but I actually picked McDavid, and I'm like, yeah, why pick McDavid when he's already the best player in the world? Like,
I
how
think I
can he
had him as
improve?
my most improved player last year too.
I think it's not even the offense I'm considering. I mean, the offense will always be there with Connor, but I actually think he's gonna take on a, you know, take his defensive role a lot more serious than he has, even though it was already getting better as the years gone by. But I think this is a guy who is going to take that Stevie Eisman route now, still lead his team in scoring, but really crunch down on defensively and make sure that his team will follow suit. I think we'll see a very strong defensive Connor McDavid in 2025-26. My runner-up though for most improved is I know he's off to a rough start here, but I choose Trent Frederick. Um, I think one of his strengths for sure is the fact that he can play any forward position. I get that, but I think Freddie's the type of player who needs stability. He needs to find one line, find one position, and then he'll able to find his role that way and curate his game to fill that role. I think we could get a very consistent Freddie, a guy who can produce some secondary offense. He's shown he can score before. He's still coming off that huge ankle injury, so a full season with Freddie where he finds his rhythm, he finds his role, he gets comfortable. I think we could see a huge improvement.
And Raghu, go ahead.
Yeah, for me, it's interesting. I also had two players, and they're two players I actually hope will spend most of the season together. But mine, interestingly enough, was actually Leon Draisaitl for similar reasons that Bob said, and that's because I actually think he's gonna go for the Selkie this year. He's gonna really improve his two-way game and no Barkov this year, so there's a chance. So I actually think that that's going to be Draisaitl's biggest focus for this year, and I think Bob made a good point with McDavid also taking that to be his initiative, and then complementing that, I would really say it's Podkolzin because I actually truly believe in his talent. I liked what he was when he was even on the Vancouver Canucks, and I think he demonstrated a lot during the playoff run, and he just knows how to read the plays down low. And I've always liked the belief that even Draisaitl has shown in Podkolzin. He's complimented him a lot in just different interviews, and I think they have a good rapport on and off the ice. And just even scoring that key goal against Montreal in that wild game, I think should boost his confidence, especially after a bit of a personal tragedy that he just went through with losing his dad.
Yeah.
So those are the two for me.
It's interesting that the first two that you guys picked are McDavid and Draisaitl, but for the defensive side of their game, I think that's probably a first on this podcast of those two guys getting picked and not being from an offensive standpoint. And Ryan,
So I'm going to start this question with a real short story. So when I was in high school, I was the most improved player on my basketball team, and a buddy of mine joked that I won the award because it meant that I was the worst player on the team at the start of the season. So taking that logic right now, I'm going to go with Ike Howard because that's not meant to be a slam at him, but he's the least experienced professionally on the roster. He's coming straight from college into the NHL, and he's got the most room to grow. And I know the kid's got a lot of talent. It's been a bit of a slow start for him, but we've been seeing some encouraging signs of the last couple games. Knobloch has been speaking about him in a positive manner after the last game or two. So I'm going to go with Howard on this one.
Well, look, I can't say that I've ever seen you play basketball, but I have seen you play hockey in a few of the heavy hockey showdowns, and you've been one of our better players out there. So, at least you've got that, right?
Yeah, be glad you haven't seen me play ball.
I, re- I I recall
I would
McDavid
say,
even saying in an interview that he's a one sport athlete, so there's nothing wrong with that.
yeah, not everybody could be good at everything. That's okay.
Exactly. And I'll go with Ryan Nugent Hopkins for this one because Nuge had just 49 points last season, which was down from 67 last year and 104 the year before that. Now, I don't expect him to put up 100 points again at age 32, but I'm confident that he'll get at least 70 points this season. And he's already off to a great start with 9 points in 8 games, and he's tied for the team lead in goals with five, which I don't think anyone would have seen coming. And if the Oilers' power play can get back to being either the best or one of the best in the league, then Nugent Hopkins should be one of the people who benefits from that the most as a mainstay on that top unit. And I think a lot of those extra points will come from assists because he's always been a pass first player. And he still scored 20 goals last season, which is probably what we expect from him at this point in his career. But he only had 29 assists. And if he spends most of the season on the top line with McDavid and Hyman when he returns, then he's going to need to have more 5-on-5 helpers. And you're playing with a guy who scored 50 goals in the league before, both actually two 50-goal scorers in the league. And even if Hyman's coming off an injury and, McDavid, like we said, hopefully is going to start shooting the puck more, but we know that they have it in them. Nuge will probably be the distributor on that line more than the other two. So I would see Nuge picking up more assists than he had last year, which should really bump up his point totals. Because we said, like, if McDavid wants to score 50 again this year, then Nuge should be cashing in on some of those. So there's real opportunity here for him to rack up the helpers. All right.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. All right. Which Oiler playing in his first full season with the team do you think will have the biggest impact this season? Raghu, you can go first.
Yeah, I think this is an easy one. I was super happy on the July 1st acquisition of Mangiapane, and not just even in his Calgary days, but just what he did on Washington. Like I think he's an amazing player, and he showed it. I was at the Battle of Alberta to start the season, and he scored right away in that game, sniping that amazing goal over Wolf. It would have been better if we won that game,
Yeah.
but it was still a great Battle of Alberta nonetheless.
Are you
And
a
I
season
actually
ticket
have
holder again this year, by the way?
I'm a split season ticket
Okay.
holder
Yeah.
again.
Because I
Yeah,
think I've
yeah.
seen you posting quite a few videos from games so far. So I figure that you might be.
Yeah, I've been to both the Calgary game and the Vancouver game this year, and it's interesting the way they started the season. You could have said maybe they would have been on like a crazy roll, and then we've seen kind of the mishmash of what the team is so far. But yeah, no, Mangiapane's looked great. I actually have him projected to score 20 goals this year, and he's already at three. So I think he's already proved his worth, and I think it's going to just keep going up for him, whether he stays on a line with McDavid or Draisaitl or however it shakes up over the course of this year.
Yeah, I believe he's on pace for 32 right now. So,
Yeah.
but I'd have to check this, but I believe he's only had 6 or 7 shots on goal.
Hmm.
So if he can start shooting, I mean, we've seen what happens when he does put the puck on net. He's just got to start doing it a little more often. And also, I'll be in Edmonton on Tuesday for their first time wearing the new alternate jersey when they take on the Utah Mammoth. So if you're there, hopefully we'll run into each other.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm not going to be at that game, but I should try to catch up with you in person.
Okay, for sure. And Ryan, go ahead.
So I think it's really simple as well, but I'm going on the back end. Jake Wallman.
Mhm.
He didn't play the full season with the Oilers last year. Trade deadline acquisition. The questions:
Hmm.
which team, which player making
Exactly.
playing the
That's how
full
I
season
worded
for
it.
the Oilers? Yep. So I'm going Jake Wallman. He's just such a well-rounded player. He moves the puck really well. He adds a little bit of dynamic element to the offensive zone. He'll move around a little bit. He's got a heck of a slap shot. Uh, but defensively, he blocks a ton of shots, and he doesn't look lost out there. And he'll settle Nurse down a little bit over time, even though Nurse is struggling to start the year. But I'll give that a little time to simmer down. But yeah, Wallman just does everything, and he brings stability to the top four, and he rounds that group out nicely. And he's so versatile; he can play either side. He's going to slot in on the right side for most of the season, unless there's some injuries. So yeah, for me, it's Wallman.
And as we kind of talked about earlier with the athletic ranking, the Oilers as having the best top four in the league, do you think that Wallman's presence elevates them to that status?
Yeah, I don't think they're in that conversation without Wallman. And I think Dom's numbers are what they are, but I think that's a little bit of a generous assessment of the group. Like they're very good. I don't see them as like the number one, but I got no real issue with this D group though. I think it's a pretty solid group.
And Bob, who's your pick?
Well, I want to call out Lotzi for plagiarism. I'm pretty sure he read my notes ahead of time. Yeah, I also picked Jake Wallman for pretty much the same reasons as Lotzi just said. I think he'll be second in our team in defensive scoring. He's probably a top pair on about 80 to 85% of the other teams in the NHL. He's definitely given us some strength, upped our defensive pedigree. Man, we got this guy for the next few years. It's going to be so exciting to see him become the player, the defensive leader that he can be. Definitely Jake Wallman for me.
Can you believe Yzerman let this guy go for nothing?
No, I can't.
Actually, I think more than that, he attached a first round pick to get rid of him.
That's right. He gave him away.
Mike Greer was able to farm 2 first round picks out of Jake Wallman. So, good work
Just
on
amazing.
the former Oiler. Yeah. And I'm going to stick with you guys. I mentioned earlier about the Oilers blue line, and Jake Wallman is going to be my pick here. I thought that Wallman made a seamless transition to the team after the trade deadline last year. And with Matthias Ekholm on the shelf for most of the playoffs, Wallman was arguably one of their most important players during that playoff run. And I think it's fair to say that they might not have reached the final without him. And also, we still haven't seen a healthy Wallman and Ekholm in the lineup at any time, because Ekholm was not himself when he came back in the final last year. And Wallman admittedly still isn't 100% according to Chris Knobloch and his availability this morning, but he has 3 points in 2 games. So if that's not him at 100%, then I like where this is trending when he does get fully healthy. And I'm predicting that he is going to have a career year this season. I think he'll hit 50 points for the first time. He had 40 points in 65 games between the Oilers and Sharks last year, and only 7 of those points came on the power play, which is encouraging because he won't be playing on the top unit in Edmonton, although his overtime winner in Ottawa, funny enough, was a power play goal. And he's also solid defensively, as we've talked about, and even brings some physical play. I'm sure we can all remember when he laid out Mikko Rantanen at center ice in his first game as an Oiler last March. So Lotzi and Bob, I'm going with you. Wallman will have the biggest impact this season among newcomers on the Oilers. All right, let's move on to goaltending now. And this is going to be one of the biggest topics in Oil Country all season. So how many games will Stuart Skinner, Calvin Pickard, and Connor Ingram each play for the Oilers this season? And who will be the team's starting goalie after the trade deadline, Ryan?
So yeah, everyone's really excited about Connor Ingram in Bakersfield. I believe he's had one really good game and one not so good game that happened last night, 5-1 loss to Tucson, I believe.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna go and say that Ingram is not getting a single game as an Oiler this season. So a couple reasons I say that. For him to get an opportunity, I think it's gonna have to be one of Skinner or Picard failing so miserably that they have no choice but to bring him up, or it's gonna be an injury. And I'm really gonna knock on some wood here and hope that the injury issue isn't a problem. So I'm thinking Picard gets about 30 appearances. He had 36 last year, so maybe a little bit less this year. That leaves 52 open for Stu Skinner. And I think that's going to be fine because I think Skinner is going to improve a little bit under Peter Aubrey. And we've already started to see some glimpses of that in the early part of the season here. So I think neither goaltender is going to fall off so much that Ingram warrants an opportunity. And I'm not sold that Ingram is going to force his way onto this roster either.
Now, I mean, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I believe it was in the 2023 calendar year. he had something like the seventh or eighth best save percentage in the NHL. Do you put any weight into that, especially on sort of a weaker Coyotes team that he was playing for at the time? Or do you just think that maybe that was a flash in the pan and he won't be able to rediscover that?
And I don't even know if it was like January 2023 to January 2024. Like, I don't know which 12-month period they were talking about. I was trying to find it online, but I couldn't find that anywhere. But they cherry picked some stats from the time that Ingram was the hottest in his career, and that may have been his peak, unfortunately, which sucks. But
No, he's only
I
28, and goaltenders usually in their late 20s or when they're really coming into their prime. So I still feel like there is that ability in him. Obviously, he had some personal issues last season. He had to take some time away from the team and get his head right. But I just think if there is that level still in there, that the Oilers have to at least explore it and give it a shot.
And like, I don't want to say the guy has no potential anymore, right? But research I did last year when I was talking about potential deadline options for the Oilers, like peak ages for goaltending seem to be late 20s, and then there's a slow gradual decline until around 31 or 32, and then it just goes off a cliff. It's like we have a few more years of peak Skinner and peak Ingram, and so they'll probably sustain this level for a little while longer. But in terms of massive improvements, I don't know that we're there anymore.
I
And
mean,
then
I guess
Ingram, yes, he missed.
goalies are so hard to predict, right? They say goalies are voodoo, and you never know because Dwayne Rollison played the best hockey of his life at age 36. So I mean, it could still be there. I mean, I know that that's a rare example. There's guys like Tim Thomas who late in their career or in their I shouldn't say late in their career, but in their 30s, uh, take off and become a starting goalie in the NHL. So I'd have to look into how often that happens. But for a guy who hasn't played in the league much, you know, I still think there's a lot of tread on those tires.
Mhm.
And there might be, but in terms of this specific season, yeah, he missed some time last year going through some personal issues, and the team in front of him in Bakersfield is pretty young. Like it's faster, it's more skilled, but it's young.
Yeah.
So I'm not certain just how much of an opportunity he's going to have to really succeed, especially in the first half of the season. And he'll have to really light it up in the second half if he's going to get an opportunity.
For sure. And Bob, how many games do you think Skinner and Pickard and obviously now sorry, Skinner, Pickard, and Ingram will have a chance to play this season?
Well, I was a big believer in a new goalie coach. Now, I don't know the new goalie coach at all, but even just a different voice, I think will be wonders. It's been a very small sample size, and I know Stu's weight loss has something to do with it too. But I feel like Skinner seems to be a lot more agile, especially side to side. I've been a big Skinner booster, since he became an Oiler. He's given me ample reasons to be wrong. He's also given me ample reasons to be right. So I still think the upside on Skinner is still there. He's just reaching his prime window. This is a contract year for him as well, and so I think we expect a big boost from Stu Skinner. Pickard's been a solid backup. He's been better than I think any Oiler, even in management, anticipated. So he's done more than his share in the number two role, and he's actually pushed Stu from time to time for some starting minutes, even in the playoffs. So we've gotten out of Pickard what we needed from Pickard. It's also a contract year from him, so I'm guessing it's pretty much his last season as an Oiler. I was a big fan of Connor Ingram in Arizona, and that year where he took off, I felt like that's actually the true Ingram. He's just entering his prime window here, like the high 20s, and I feel like he can still reach that level that he showed a couple years ago.
Mhm.
This year, it's going to be a stretch because like he had the long time off. Like Lotzi was saying, he's really going to have to show his stuff here in the minors to warrant a call up. I did the actual number crunching where the total, if you add the total number of games up that I'm going to mention here, it's going to equal 90. But I'm also putting in relief appearances.
Okay.
So I got Skinner in for 49 games. I have Pickard in for 31 games. And I do have Connor Ingram getting called up and playing 10 games. I do think if he shows well in Bakersfield, they are going to want to see uh, how he is up against NHL shooters. It's worth the gamble. There's so much upside to this guy, and as well, if we're going to lose Pickard next year, most likely, can Connor Ingram play himself into a role for the Oilers next year? Stu Skinner, though, will be the starter when the playoffs start.
For sure. And I mean, all goalies are going to have some weaknesses too. And you talked about his lateral movement, and maybe that will never be a strength of his, but let's hope that Aubrey can at least help him make some strides in that area. And I mean, even look at the game last night against Montembeau. They kind of found that a weakness was shooting up high, and it ended up working. So uh, for Stu, like if he can get a little better in that area, because goaltenders are so good now that getting the goalie to move side to side has become one of the best ways to score in the modern NHL. And also for Pickard, I mean, I think he started what 6-0 in the playoffs last year, first Oilers goalie since Grant Fuhr to do that. So uh, they don't want to just potentially put that guy on waivers and lose him for nothing. But I mean, at some point, Ingram might just force their hand and give them no choice but to call him up, or it could be the opposite, that one of the two of them just is struggling so much that they have to make a change, similar to what happened with Campbell 2 years ago when Pickard came up. And Raghu, what do you think?
Yeah, I was going to say that it's a hard question to answer, and it ties back to a lot of these players' journeys. Like we already mentioned that Stu's timeline was accelerated a bit when Jack
Oh, a
Campbell
lot, I
really
think.
didn't pan out, right? Like that
Yeah.
specifically led to that acceleration. And I mean, I personally didn't agree with the Jack Campbell signing at that time either. We signed a goalie for 5x5 that was also pretty unproven. So I, again, that's GMs making decisions when a goalie becomes available. But regardless of that,
I
I
think
think
Darcy
if
Kemper, sorry to interrupt, I think
oh yeah,
Darcy Kemper was their first choice that summer.
yes,
But then
yep.
though I think the word came out that he didn't want to play in Edmonton. I don't know if it's just because it's too close to home, or he didn't want to play in Canada, or what the deal is. But yeah, and look, he didn't really knock it out of the park in Washington either. He obviously had a Vesna caliber
Yeah.
season last year once he got traded to LA. But
Yep.
I mean, maybe things look different if Kemper comes in and Stewart wouldn't have been thrust into that position so quickly.
Yeah, and I think we've talked about like goalies being voodoo. Like a lot of goalies tend to do well in a system like LA. Like Cam Talbot had success
Right.
there, Rittich had success there. It's just when you play the 1-3-1 system, it makes goalies numbers look good, which is I think partly I do agree a lot with what Bob said about Ingram because I had him on my fantasy team that year. I remember as like a third or fourth goalie, and I had to play him a lot, and it actually was really useful for me. And Arizona's always been that kind of team
Is
because
this that
go,
2023 year
2023
that we were
season,
talking about
yeah,
when he was either like top 10 in the league in save
yep,
percentage? Yeah.
yeah, he was always a pretty good starter in a pinch, and I think like goalies seem to thrive on those kind of teams, like Vamelka, Kemper, Ingram. So, as far as your question around the number of games, I do agree a lot with Bob too. Like I had it for Stu for 50, Pickard for 32, and then I did expect that there'll be some relief. Games where Ingram does see some time with the Oilers because we saw it with Vegas when they were rotating like 4 or 5 goalies the year they won the cup too.
Right.
They had like so many different goalies, and you never know what happens in the playoffs with injuries. So I think Ingram will need to be called up at some point so that way you get some familiarity with the roster rather than it happening in the playoffs. So I would peg him at about 10 to 12 games in some capacity, whether it's due to injury or just needing a change due to maybe some bad stretch of the season for us. But I'll be curious too. I was going to say one of my biggest like shocker moments of this season will be that with McDavid signing that essentially extending his 8-year contract to 10 at that same AAV, if our goalie situation does have a bit of a shakeup and there's some good teams falling out, I could see our first round pick being up for grabs to try to get like a massive starter. And I
I
personally am
wouldn't trade it for
hoping
sure. I've
I'm
made
hoping that if Nashville falls out, somehow Saros is on the table. That's my pie in the sky dream.
You're kind of stealing my answer here a little bit, but that's what I'm going to say in a minute. But I believe that Stan Bowman did say in one of his press availabilities before the season that the first round pick will continue to be in play
Yeah.
essentially every year that McDavid is with the Oilers. So
Yep.
I don't think we'll be seeing the Oilers pick in the first round for quite a while. So they're going to have to start hitting on some of those later round picks.
Yeah.
But I mean, now that you've brought in a couple 21-year-olds like Savoy and Howard, and they've signed some young guys out of Europe, let's hope that that can sort of replenish what was a pretty bare prospect cupboard. And I'll say Skinner starts 50 games, Pickard 22, and Ingram starts 10. And look, Skinner is obviously a lightning rod for criticism in Edmonton. And there are many fans on Twitter that place a lot of the blame on him for the Oilers not winning a cup in either of the past two seasons. And maybe there's some credence that I don't think that he is specifically the reason why they didn't get by the Florida Panthers. That was just a bulldozer of a team that they ran into. They would have probably needed several
They
more
would have needed
pieces to get by them.
Bobrovsky.
Yeah,
They would have
essentially.
needed Bobrovsky to beat Florida.
But I mean, in fairness, didn't Skinner put up better individual numbers than Bobrovsky in at least the first of the two series that they played against each other in 2024? So, I mean, yes, there were some bad games. And I mean, maybe that 8-1 blowout that the Oilers had over the Panthers in, I think it was game 4, is it kind of
skews
shifted
the numbers.
Yeah, skewed the numbers a little bit, right? But I mean, even though his playoff stats aren't great, he's shown that when he's dialed in, Skinner can be excellent. I mean, he had 3 shutouts in a span of 4 playoff games last spring. So he's either out of this world amazing or almost unplayable. There's very little middle ground with him. And that's a big what? Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think what makes last year's playoff run so fascinating was the goaltender split. Like, we literally had them, both goalies showed up at different times. And that can work, it cannot work. Like, would that work again in a new season? It's hard to say, right? So it's sometimes it worked last year, and it worked well, and the team rallied around each goalie at different points in time, but it also made it hard to know what the Oilers were even throughout the cup run last year, despite winning 2 different series in 5 games. It was just such a interesting run compared to the one the year before.
Yeah, and then we talk about Pickard going 6-0 in the playoffs last year, and then he gets hurt in Vegas, and then Skinner comes in and he's incredible, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, he has all those shutouts, but when your goalie is either a 1,000 save percentage or like an 845, or sometimes sub 800, that's that's going to be really tough, especially for the fan base, because you don't know what you're going to get on any given night. It'd be just great if you knew that you had a reliable 905 goalie and that he was going to give in 2 goals every game. On occasion, there's a third one. So you're just like, okay, well, we have the big guns. As long as we score 3 to 4 goals, that's going to be enough to win. But for the Oilers, that isn't the case right now. There's still going to have to be some shootouts. But you look at like going up against Dallas, like he's out-dueled Jake Ottinger, who's been I don't know what, top 5, top 7 goalie in the league for several years now. And so we know that ability's in him. We just don't see it often enough. And at the end of the day, I still want him to do well. He's an easy guy to cheer for, as well as a hometown goalie. I know that doesn't mean as much to someone, but to draft and develop a kid from Edmonton, that is big for this organization. It hasn't happened a lot over their 45 years plus in the league, but this season is probably his last shot to secure himself as a starter, not just because it's a contract year, but because the clock is somewhat ticking for this group. I mean, it is an older core, and you have to show McDavid that you're making some improvement year over year. And while he's never going to come out and criticize any of his teammates, I'm sure that when Stan Bowman and Jeff Jackson visited his cottage in Ontario this summer and they talked about the direction of the organization, goaltending must have come up and stabilizing that position, whether that means bringing in a 1A, 1B, which potentially could be Ingram. We don't know, but finding that guy who can sort of solidify that would be huge for this team. And I'll kind of piggyback off what you said there. I mean, UC Soros, that would be just a fantastic ad if they could get him at the trade deadline. But I mean, I still think Skinner will be the starter uh, once the trade deadline is passed. I think that's still the safe bet. And maybe this internal pressure of now having Ingram in the organization will add some extra motivation down the stretch.
Mhm.
And I can't remember if I said my predictions for the games, but I'll just reiterate then. Skinner, I've got 50, Pickard 22, and Ingram 10. And I think that's a good way for us to transition into our next predictions now. So, how many trades do you think the Oilers will make during the season? What positions will Bowman specifically upgrade? And bonus points if you want to throw out a name that the Oilers should be targeting. Bob, you can go first.
Well, I mentioned earlier on how we have so many hopeful players that we're hoping are gonna, bring the game that we want them to bring. I'm gonna bank on that hope a little bit. I do think guys like Tomasic and Savoy and Howard are gonna find their legs. I do think Mangiapane is gonna, produce at least an adequate level where we're pleased with his production. So, but I do think if we're gonna focus on trades, I do see us maybe leveling up a little bit on our middle six forwards. I think the mid to bottom six kind of thing to stabilize some of our depth, to stabilize maybe some of our defensive play on the back end. I can see as banking on everybody hitting the way I want them to hit. I can see us maybe making 3 mid-level trades. I think goaltending will be fine. I think defensively, Bush is going to turn around. Nurse is who Nurse is, but when he's on, he's as good as anybody. He's just having too many off moments at the moment. So I see us being more focused on the middle to bottom six players for some depth. And if I'm going to look a player specifically, it would have to be in a 3-way trade because one guy that I think would fit well in that area for us would be a guy like Ryan Lomberg playing for Calgary right now. So I don't think they'll trade straight up. They might have to go through like Buffalo or something like that to make that happen in a 3-way trade. But that's a guy who I think would fill out that role pretty nicely.
Well, Bob, two of the things you said there could have probably fit into your bold predictions category later in the show, making a trade with the Calgary to bolster the Oilers' cup chances, and also that goaltending will be fine. So that one might get clipped by Oilers fans when they listen to this one. But and Raghu, what's your take?
Yeah, this is an interesting one because I think part of it depends on what we are as a team by the trade deadline. Like I do agree with Bob a lot where I'm putting a lot of faith also in this young group of players. Like
But that's where
like
the
I said,
prediction element comes in, right?
no, 100%. And that's
Just
why I was
joking,
going
just
to
joking.
say I truly believe like the one thing that's excited me about this season is I truly will believe we're like the Dallas Stars finally, where we're playing our young guys and trying to see what they have and letting them grow through experience and losses and mistakes. And that's what I've always wanted. I hate just being all veterans and letting
And
rookies just kind of
you're
like
hoping that
percolate
Savoy and
forever.
Howard are going to turn into the next Stankoven and Bork.
Exactly. Like for me, it's like Dylan Holloway. It's like
Yeah.
Philip Broberg, like players who I could see them getting fed up with not really getting the opportunity and then signing offer sheets. Like that's what I want to avoid. So, and I've really liked Ike Howard, despite kind of having a few points so far. I really like Savoy. Like these are players I'm excited to see how they continue to progress throughout the season. So I would say similarly 2 to 3 trades. But I was gonna say to me the biggest one will be what I already mentioned. If a team like Nashville falls out after a big struggle last year, I'd be looking at a massive trade for UC Soros at the deadline.
Okay, just while we have it, because we've both mentioned it, I want to pull it up and see what his contract situation is. Because, I mean, you think about it, that would be a dream fit for the Oilers.
Yep.
But he has, well, he signed a long term. I think he's on an 8-year deal because cap wages has it going beyond the 6 years that it's showing here at a cap hit of 7.4 million, which as the cap goes up won't be that big of a deal. He is 30 years old now. Like what do you think a realistic return looks like for Nashville in that deal.
Well, see, it's interesting because I would see, like, if Nashville's truly going a potential rebuild route, like Roman Yossi just got hurt and might be out for
Yeah.
2 to 3 weeks, right? Like, if they truly are trying to examine what their future looks like, I could see Stu Skinner going the other way, a first round pick, a potential multiple round
It
picks.
could be two
Uh,
first. It could be the
exactly.
2026 and 27. But I mean,
And if I'm the Oilers, I'm sacrificing that.
if the Oilers think that, and you might have to throw in another player just to make the money work,
Sure.
because looking at it, okay, Stu Skinner saws off about 2.5 of that 7.7. You're probably still needing to clear 5 million, depending on how much cap space the Oilers have accrued throughout the season. So I don't know what that math is going to work out to, but like if you, I mean, lots of you were even pointing out before about goaltenders in their 30s and kind of dropping off from that prime rate. Like if you think that UC Soros is going to stay at this level throughout his 30s, which he's locked up for, then I guess maybe you do sacrifice trading those 2 first round picks if you think that's really going to be the piece that gets you over the top. And Ryan,
And for
well,
me,
I
like
guess we'll go to you, yeah, next, Ryan. So, like, where do you see the Oilers looking to upgrade? And you can touch on that too if you want.
yeah, I'll finish the thought on the Saros deal. It's not a deal I would make, A, because wouldn't want to spend that many assets on the goaltending position, and I just don't see him lasting that long at an elite level.
You'd have to be so
The
sure,
big thing
right?
for me is
Because
he's
you're
small.
sacrificing your two. Yeah, he's what, 5'10". I mean, you're sacrificing your two biggest trade assets that you'll have in the next 2 seasons, banking on this guy being your goalie for the next 7 years, let's say, including this one. So, yeah, you really have to get that one right, because that could be the deal that either makes or breaks this team eventually getting over the hill and winning a cup.
Yeah, that would be a massive gamble. Some people might look at it and say it's Saros, it's not a gamble, but I would view it as a bit of a gamble.
However, we've seen Soros through his 20s. We'll see what Soros in his 30s looks like. You know, hard to
And
say, right? But anyway, I'll let
I'm
you get back
yeah.
to your point of where you think the team should upgrade.
Sorry, Raghu, were you about to say something?
All I was gonna say was I think the tough thing about goalies is look at the defensive cores they play in front of. Like if we truly believe the Oilers' top four is this good, and you guys talked about Jake Wallman earlier. I'm a big Jake Wallman guy, so I think if that kind of decor plays in front of a Saros, like him being 5'11" doesn't mean much to me. We talk about lateral movement. I think lateral movement matters way more than height, to just speaking frankly. So that was just gonna be my point on Saros.
Could he get a boost of being reunited with Ekholm too? Like those two,
100%.
like I don't know how much of a difference that really makes, but just throwing that out there. And Ryan, back to you. Your prediction for trades during the season.
Yeah, so I'm always talking about the cap when I'm talking about potential trade
Mm-hmm.
situations. Like we're already tight to the cap. We're already utilizing LTIR space for Zach Hyman, who is expected to be back soon. And so he's not going to miss the entire season. And the LTIR rules are different this year. So if a guy is going to miss the entire season, then he's not allowed to play in the playoffs either. So it's not
Hmm.
like you can load up and then get the guy back from
I
injury
mean,
and
look
go
at
on a cup
Vegas.
run.
They've already done that with Petrangelo, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
He
but
is
they
he
know
is not
Petrangelo is
eligible.
not going to be playing.
Right.
So they can use that money to replace Petrangelo. They can't use that money to add to their team, if that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean,
Right?
Barkov is an interesting one too, because they said the injury time is 7 to 9 months, which I mean means he could come back. But I mean, if it's 7 months, he could come back for the East final and Cup final. But will Florida have recommitted that money somewhere else by then? It's so hard to say.
Yeah, exactly. They have to make a choice, wait for Barkov and hope they get that far, or go out and get somebody that they know will help them get there and then just live without Barkov for the season. So it's a little bit different. It's not going to be like last year where we can go out and use Evander Kane's LTIR money to get Jake Wallman, right? So we're going to have to be a little more creative if anything big happens at all. Now, I think the only spot they can really add is that forward. Like our top four D are set. and Brett Kulak is settled in there nicely as the fifth guy. They're not moving him. And
Still
we
have to
have a few
re-sign
guys
him,
that can
actually.
settle in bottom right, right? Or bottom pairing on the right side. So maybe a depth D, but that's not where I'm going with this. Up front is where they're lacking the most, and we know the 2027 first round pick is in play. It would only be for somebody that they think that they can either re-sign or that has some term left on their deal. So I'm thinking it's going to be a top six forward. But for that to happen, like Bob said, it's going to have to be a three-way deal with two teams retaining 50% on somebody. Um, we know about Alex Tuck, the rumors that have been circulating already. That's an intriguing option, but Bob Stoffers mentioned this guy as well, Ricard Raquel. That's a guy I've always liked and has just kind of been floating in purgatory in
Would you have
Pittsburgh,
liked
not
him
really
more
getting much
5 years
done.
ago, though, or even maybe 3 years ago than now?
I mean, so Ricard is 32 years old right now. And so it's not like he's going to be an impact guy for the next 7 years, but he's got 2 more years left on his deal at $5 million. If we can get some retention on that, which we'd have to acquire him, then that's going to be a good deal for a while. 70 points last year in 81 games, so the guy can
Oh,
still
okay.
impact a hockey game.
Honestly, I'll admit that's a better season than I thought he had.
Yeah, exactly. Like quietly 70 points in 81 games. But your question was who should the Oilers be interested in acquiring? So I'm going to have a little fun with
No,
this one.
who do you think the Oilers should be interested in acquiring?
And,
You can interpret it however you want.
yeah, 100%. But a guy I have my eye on that I like and has been struggling for a couple seasons now due to some health issues is Andrei Svechnikov in Carolina. Now he's got 3 years left at I believe it's 7.75. So it would take some or cap gymnastics to make it happen, and it would be costly. But that's a dude that is a true sniper, and he's an electric scorer. He's got a ton of skill, would fit nicely on a line with Connor Orlean in my belief. So that's a guy that they should be knocking on the door with, or knocking on Carolina's door to try to get. But it's a silly one that I don't think will happen. But that's what we're here for, right?
I
Try
mean,
to
yeah,
have a little fun
exactly.
with the season.
I mean, it would be great, but I mean, also Carolina's probably wanting to contend again this year too, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that
Yeah.
I don't know if they're really
The reason
looking to detract from their roster or subtract, I should say.
Yeah, the reason I put that out there is because he's on their third line right now,
Yeah.
and he's kind
So
of
you might be
struggling there.
pissed.
So yeah, exactly. If it gets to the situation where this turns ugly and he wants out, Oilers should definitely be knocking on their door.
And
and he's been snake bitten for a couple years. It's another fantasy player I've had as a keeper for a long time. I'm like, come on, Svetch, get some points.
Yeah, I had that issue too.
And I think it was Elliot Friedman who said on his podcast last year that part of the reason that Rantanen was traded to Dallas, among others, is that Carolina or Rod Brindamore specifically doesn't like any of his forwards to play over 20 minutes.
Yeah.
He likes those lines so balanced. So if you're an offensive minded player and you're only getting maybe 3 or 4 minutes of ice time as a top line player than the bottom six guys are, that's going to be pretty frustrating for you.
Yep.
So could that also be a reason that, they're having a difficult time convincing some? I mean, yeah, they can talk about it's a nice place to live and the weather's good or whatever, but I mean, sounds like a big reason why Nick Ehlers went there. But if you're a star player and you're thinking that at least my even strength ice time isn't going to be that great, then yeah, I could see why you might want to move.
Yeah, as someone who also owns a lot of Nick Ehlers in fantasy this year, he finally got his first 2 points in the last 2 games. And yeah, he's been averaging between 12 and 16 minutes. So it is a completely different environment than what he was going through being a part of the Winnipeg Jets. So yeah, it's definitely a very unique team for sure. But that would be a pretty awesome acquisition. Lotsy, Svechnikov could totally have a complete resurgence being on another team.
And I mean, considering that Brindamore was the captain when the Hurricanes beat the Oilers in 06, and his son was a prospect for the Oilers and refused to sign here. Not the most popular family in oil country, to say the least. And And I think the Oilers will make two trades before the deadline. They'll add a scoring winger. Ryan, you already mentioned it, but Alex Tucka, I think, is a name that's been out there, and that'd be a great one. I think he'd be an excellent fit on Draisaitl's line if they could somehow get him out of Buffalo and hopefully re-sign him. And while I don't think they'll be able to get Soros, that would be the guy. I mean, if there's a goalie that's on the market, and we don't even know if he is, but you look at the situation that he's in Nashville, that would be one where you could maybe see them parting ways with him just because of them going into a rebuild. And I think a lot of Oilers fans were also hoping that that would be the case with Sorokin on Long Island. But then there were reports that he didn't have any interest in leaving, which is surprising because you'd think that a guy who's roughly around the same age, pushing 30, would be looking to go to a contending team as opposed to an Islanders team that's rebuilding at this point after just getting the first overall pick last year. So if Sorokin's not out there, then maybe Soros is someone that they at least try to explore. And you know that Bowman is going to exhaust every avenue, and whether or not he gets someone, they're going to be looking for it. I don't like this kind of get it going around the edges and finding players who can be good support pieces. A big part of McDavid leaving all this money on the table was so that they can go out there and add an impact player. And maybe that won't happen until next summer, but it'd be great if they could find someone in season who can help them for the 2026 playoffs as opposed to a year from now. But whether that comes in March or July, I fully expect that the Oilers will add an impact forward who can either play on McDavid or Draisaitl's line.
See, what I was trying to remember was last year when Colorado got both Blackwood and Wedgwood, that was what, late November? Somewhere in that time frame.
It was not too long after. Wedgwood was actually in goal when McDavid got his 1,000th point, and I believe it was the next week that he was traded. I don't know when the Blackwood deal does, but that's very rare.
Google says December 9th.
Yeah,
December 9th. Okay, yeah.
I mean, to change out two goalies in season is very rare too, right?
It's rare, and yeah, I guess the main point I was trying to just raise with what you said, Eric, was I would like to see, and this is where the standings are so interesting this year. Look at the top three teams in the Atlantic so far, and granted, it's October hockey. No one's.
I mean, Florida's really under 500, yet. Right? So
yeah,
you never know.
But yeah, the teams we're talking about needing to fall out to start sacrificing their pieces, they're unfortunately not the ones who are losing right now. So let's see what happens.
All right, let's do our stats predictions now. Who do you think will finish top 5 on the Oilers in goals and top 5 in points this season? And how many will they finish with respectively? Raghu, go ahead.
Yeah, so I'll go with goals first. I've got Dry with 55, McDavid with 50, so 250 goal scorers. Hyman coming in with 30, even after missing about a month of the season, followed by Manji with 20, and then Nuge with 18. And then for total points, I've got McDavid with 130 this year, Dry with 115, followed by Bouchard again with 82 points for another point per game season. Hyman with 68 points, and then Nuge with 65.
Nice. And I mean, if McDavid puts up another 130 point season, that'd be huge. I think that should be the expectation from him in a healthy year. And Bush has had a bit of a slow start, but I wouldn't count him out hitting 80 or more still this year. We know that he'll pick it up as the season goes on, especially as they get closer to the playoffs. And Ryan, who do you have as the Oilers' top offensive producers this season?
My numbers are going to be a little lower than a lot of you guys, but
okay.
Start with goals, same way. Leon's going to lead the team in goals. I think he gets 51. McDavid, I have him at 30, and I'm not even certain he's going to get that. I got Nuge at 26 goals, Hyman at 22, and then Bouchard at 17.
Interesting. So only 4 guys hitting 20.
Only 4 guys hitting 20.
Okay.
And then for points, I'm putting Connor in the lead there, but at 118. Leon at 107. Bouchard at 76. Nuge at 65. and then Hyman in fifth spot at 54.
Now, is this just because you think after two deep playoff runs going all the way till late June, they're not going to have it in the tank to reach the offensive heights we've seen them before? Or they're just saving it for the playoffs in the spring. Like what's the logic behind the lower offensive totals from this team this year?
I go back to the point I gave in the very first question where we lost four of our top seven most prolific goal scorers from a goals per 60 rate. It's like this team just isn't as offensively talented this year as it has been in other years. It's like Connor and Leon are still going to lead the charge, but I don't think the team as a whole is going to score nearly as many goals. And we know Leon is focused on winning the Selkie this year. That's kind of a internal goal of his. So he's going to be more focused on the defensive side of the puck. Connor's talked a big game about wanting to prove that his 50 or 64 goal season wasn't a one-off, but I haven't seen that mentality from him on the ice so far this year. He's been looking to make plays more so than score. So I don't know. I'm just not sold that we're in store for like 160 points from Connor in that type of season.
No, for sure. You make good points. And Bob?
Well, once again, I feel like Lotsy's plagiarizing me here a little bit because my number's a bit lower as well. I got Drysdale leading the charge in goals at 49. I got McDavid. Same reason Lotsy just, or as I mentioned before too, and Lotsy touched on now, as McDavid's been talking a big game for sure, and I know his ambition is there, and if he really wants to, he could get up to 50 again. But as I mentioned earlier, I do think he's going to focus on his defense. He'll still produce the points, but I have him down for 28 goals. I got Nuge at 24. And a bit of a surprise here for tied for fifth. I actually got Tomasic at 20 and Hyman at 20 as well. And then for points, I got McDavid at 119. I got Draisaitl at 116. I got Bouchard over at 72 points. Wallman at 48. And then I got Nuge and Savoy tied for 47.
Okay, so we're seeing the rookies on the board a little bit with your predictions.
Well, again, I'm hoping for my hope players.
Yeah, you're bullish. I love it.
And for me, I'm always going to be, high in my praise and hopes for the offense of this team. I still believe that even with the losses that we talked about to this roster early in the season, that the big boys are still going to be able to get it done. So I've got Draisaitl with 55. This is for goals, I should say. Draisaitl with 55, McDavid 52, Hyman at 28, despite missing the first 12 games of the season. And let's hope that that's all he misses. Nugent Hopkins at 27 and Mangiapane at 25. And for points, I'm not changing my predictions that I had before the season. I do still think this is going to be McDavid's career year. And despite only having 11 points through his first 8 games, we've seen him have slow starts before and him pick it up and go on incredible runs. I think back to 2023-24, the year he hit 100 assists. He had a stretch during that incredible 16-game winning streak with the Oilers where he was producing about 2 points a game. So I think he'll get back to that. I have McDavid with 155 points, Leon with 131, Bouchard at 80, Nugent Hopkins at 77, and Zach Hyman coming in fifth at 63. So, like I said, Lotzi and I are sort of on the opposite there. I'm a little more bullish on the top guys, even if they are missing some of their supporting cast that they've had, because I think that the offensive acumen of the top guys is so strong that they can overcome that. And even if that makes them a little more maybe top heavy, that the point totals will still be there for them. All right.
I thought I was bullish, Eric, but you were even more bullish than me.
Well, if you look at it, like last season, McDavid only had 100 points, which we say only 100 points, but he played 67 games. So if you look at that over an 82 game pace, that gets him into the 120s. And that's in a year where he had an injury early in the season to his ankle in that Columbus game. And who knows how long it took him to actually get back to, full ability after that. Cause he only missed 3 games when they said he was going to be out for several weeks. And Then there was the suspension in
Hmm.
January, and then obviously the injury that he suffered against Winnipeg in March. So I just feel like that if he is fully healthy, that we can expect him to be at that rate. And if he does finish in the 130s, that's still, I mean, if we look at it over the last 30 years, it's been an extremely rare feat. He's the only one that's done it twice. But a healthy McDavid in his prime should still be able to get there at least. But I'm going to stick with my prediction that I think he's going to hit over 150 again. All right, I want to get your Pacific Division predictions now. Where do you think the 8 teams will finish in the standings? How many points will they each have? And which of the teams will make the playoffs this year? Ryan, you go first.
Okay, I've got Vegas winning the division, unfortunately, because I think they're a really deep team. I don't know that they've replaced Petrangelo on the back end, and they still could do that at some point in the season. But their forward units are really deep. Like they got a strong forward lineup. So, and they've won the division a couple times before, so I'll give them the division crown again. And I'll give them, I'm making up the point predictions or point totals as I go here. I'll give them 110.
Okay.
I'm gonna give Edmonton the second place. I think it's gonna be a weaker division overall. So Edmonton ends up with less points, but ends up finishing second in the division, which is better than they were last year. So I'll go with, well, what did we get last year?
One oh
Like I said, I'm doing this
We
on the
got
fly.
101
yes,
last
101.
year.
I was going to say 104. That's right. It was 101.
Okay, so I'll give them an even 100 this year, pretty close to what they were, but they're gonna get there in a different way. I've got Seattle finishing third. I think they got a few guys that are going to take a step forward. Shane Wright being the biggest one of them. Another year of Matty Beniers under his belt. I like their defense. I, I like their top four. Joey Decord's turning into a really good goaltender. They're off to a good start this year. So we'll get a good look at him tonight, and we'll see how close I am to being right on that one. But part of my reasoning is also because I think the Kings are going to take a slight step back. That pairing of Cody Ceci and Brian Dumoulin, it's expensive and it's not performing well at all. And we got Kopitar in his last year, so I don't know how productive he's going to be. He's still going to be a good player, don't get me wrong, but there's going to be a changing of the guard in the Kings organization, and I think that's going to cost them a few points in the standings. I've got Anaheim finishing fifth because I think they've got a lot of young pieces that are just starting to click, and a new coach in place who has a strong track record of getting some results out of some teams. And I got Vancouver in sixth. That was a hard one for me to call. Thatcher Demko being healthy, I think, is a big factor for them, but I just don't think they have the offensive or defensive juice or the depth to make another big playoff run this year. Calgary seventh. Dustin Wolf can only do so much. And then the Sharks. Promising future, but we all know what the situation is there now.
All right. Bob, how do you see the Pacific Division playing out this season?
Well, unfortunately, I also have the Golden Knights finishing first. I gave them 111 points. That same reason, just too much depth there, and very well coached, very well managed. My second place team is going to be a huge surprise, I think. But I actually think that it's the Los Angeles Kings. I think you're gonna have a Kemp or like Kopitar playing his last year is gonna be very motivated to finish strong. Most likely his last year. I think he said his last year,
Yeah,
didn't he?
yeah, he's retiring.
You got Kempe and Fiala are they're pistols. I think Byfield's really gonna step up his game, become like uh the next guy they're gonna build a team around. Doughty be motivated. I just think the Kings will be yeah, they're gonna be coming out strong here eventually. I got the Oilers finishing third. Like I said at the beginning of this podcast, is I think they are 3 wins worse than they were last year, so I have them now at 95 points. And I also think the Flames are a bit of a tire fire right now, but I do have them in fourth. Um, they have a lot of talent there that just isn't clicking yet. I don't think they can go 82 games without clicking. Something's going to catch fire there eventually, or they're going to make some changes. But I had them down. I didn't make any changes. You know, 8, 10 games of the season here. So this was my preseason predictions. I said Flames with 89 points. Ducks will put a step forward. They'll have 88 points. They'll be in 5th spot. I got the Canucks sitting in 6th with 88 points. Then I got the Kraken down in 7th for 73, and the Sharks are who they are with 64 points. I got the Golden Knights, Kings, and the Oilers making the playoffs.
All right. And Raghu, what does your list look like?
Yeah, same thing as Bob. I didn't let recency bias affect my standings predictions, which will be interesting when I get to number 7. But yeah, number 1, similar with these guys, I've got Vegas as number 1. Going into the season when they acquired Marner, I actually thought they would be the best team, and the Oilers making the changes they did is just hard to predict they would finish number 1. So I think we all hope we'll be wrong, but I had Vegas at 112. I actually have the Oilers second at 105. And that's because I think the Pacific Division will be way tighter from 3 to 6. And so third, I've actually got the Canucks still. I think in a year where they could potentially lose Quinn Hughes, they're going to do everything possible to ensure they at least get one more playoff run out of it. So I've got the Canucks finishing third with 98. And then I've got the Kings, Ducks, and Kraken with 95, 94, and 90 points respectively. So it's going to be just a lot of trading points back and forth. And then I actually did have the Flames 7th with 75 points. And that was because this is the Gavin McKenna sweepstakes. And if there's ever a year for the Flames to start losing some games, they are doing the right thing with some of these competitive losses they have so far.
I will never cheer for the Flames to win, but I want them to not lose as many this season, so they're not in a position to get him.
Exactly. But I do
We're the
still
only
don't...
Alberta team that gets first overall picks.
Yes, exactly.
That's our thing.
That's our thing.
Yeah.
And I still have the Sharks last, though, with 63 points. I think they'll be a fun team to watch this year, just with the talent that they have. But I still think they're at least another year away from kind of starting to compete for the division. And then when it comes to just the overall West, I only think that Vegas, the Oilers, and the Canucks will make it, as I think there'll be 5 teams from the Central again.
And I've got the Oilers winning the Pacific Division. I guess I'm the only one with 108. I think that it eventually has to happen in the McDavid era. And we've seen this team go on incredible runs in each of the past 2 seasons, despite their slow starts. So at 4-3-1 is improvement over where they were each of the last 2 seasons. And I still think there will be a stretch where they go like 15-3 in an 18-game stretch and really kind of elevate in the division or something like that. So I've got the Oilers winning the Pacific Division for the first time in 39 years with 108 points. Vegas coming in second, narrowly behind with 107. The Kings finishing third with 98. And those are my 3 playoff teams. I also think, Raghu, that there'll be 5 teams coming, or there'll be 5 playoff teams out of the Central. I've got the Canucks in fourth with 95. The Ducks take a big step forward this year in 5th with 93. The Kraken still kind of staying as that middling sort of team that's not great, not terrible, but they're just there with 85 points. And hopefully the Oilers will continue their domination over them since they came into the league with a win tonight. And the Flames with 72 and the Sharks falling just behind with 65. And as much as I don't want Gavin McKenna to go to the Flames, if he goes to the Sharks, now that really loads them up to be a threat in the Pacific for years to come. Already with Macklin Celebrini, Will Smith, Sam Dickinson on the back end, like they could be a team that when the Oilers Cup window sort of winds down, that's the team that really elevates and takes over as a threat to contend for cups for many years to come. So I'd prefer if McKenna ends up somewhere out east. All right, I've asked you guys to each come up with 3 bold predictions about the Oilers for this season. This is probably my favorite topic of the podcast every year when we do this. So it can be a prediction about the team, an individual player, a prospect, or anything Oilers related. It's completely open. So we'll go around the table with one at a time. Bob, you're starting us off tonight. What is your first bold prediction about the Oilers this season?
Oh, Bob, I think you're on mute.
Do we have you, Bob?
Oh, there we
Okay,
go.
there.
Sorry, my rotary phone doesn't have a mute button. I don't know how that happened. Um, all right, so my first prediction will be in regards to Team Canada for the Olympic team coming up. Obviously, we got McDavid on there, and Hyman's a strong contender and what have you. My surprise picks will be, well, I think Bouchard makes it, and I do think Stu Skinner makes it as one of the goalies. That's my big one for
Interesting.
my number one bold pick.
I wrote an article about that back in August. I had Hyman and Bush as the two players that'll be joining McDavid on Team Canada in 2026. So that's interesting. Okay, Raghu, over to you.
Yeah, so mine is actually going to be that Savoy gets to 50 points this season and is nominated for the Calder.
All
Nice.
right. I mean, we've never had an Oiler player win it.
Yep.
There's been multiple that should have deserved it.
Get
Wayne Gretzky was robbed of that in 1980 because they decided that playing in the WHA meant he wasn't an official rookie, or wasn't an official rookie, I should say. However, I guess Panarin playing 6 years in the KHL didn't stop him from being a rookie and taking it from McDavid in 2016 when he was injured. And then, of course, Nuge also should have won it over Landeskog in 2011. Ryan, go ahead.
Yeah, but Bob took the Skinner one away from me there. He stole my notes this time. Yeah, Aiden Hill going through some injury trouble. There's an open spot on the Olympic roster. I think that's Stu Skinner's for the taking. Um, but I got a couple other ones, not super spicy. The Oilers are not going to lose more than 5 games in a row at any point this season. It
Okay.
seems for the last handful of years, we've had one long losing streak, at least one long losing streak at some point in the season. But I feel like this team's going to be a little more consistent. Like, I don't think we have the high end capacity that we've had in years past, but I think we'll be a little more consistent this year.
Now,
And then the other one
oh wait,
is, I think
we'll go through
Mangiapane's.
a
Yeah.
one at a time each. I
Go
want to
one at a
say,
time. All right, all right,
yeah,
all right.
because I remember a couple years ago I asked Bob, like, are you saving your best one for last, or are you leading off? Like, are you giving us the dessert first, or are you eating your veggies? Uh, so yeah, Bob, back to you. Is this are you saving your best one for last or no?
I'll save my best one for last. Yeah.
Okay, good.
It's also going to contradict me a bit, but it's what I do, I guess. Um, okay, my second one is the Edmonton Oilers are playing in their new third jersey 7 times this season, and I
Correct.
have them. They're only going to lose once wearing that jersey, so they're going to be 6-1 at the third jersey.
And 5 of them are at home too. For some reason, they're going to wear them twice on the road in January. And one of them is on McDavid's birthday. I don't know if that's a reason why they picked it, but you know, you'd think you'd give it 7 times all for the home fans. But anyway, so you've got one loss coming in that jersey,
One loss.
which is better than they did when they wore the reverse retros uh in 2023. If you remember, it was the updated version of the McFarland. I believe they went 1-3-1 in those jerseys. So yeah, let's hope that they have a little better luck with the new off-white design that's come out about a month ago. Raghu, you're next.
Yeah, so my next one, it's actually going to be that the Oilers will reclaim the top power play percentage in the league. And I think that's specifically how both McDavid and Dry will combine to both become 50 goal scorers this year. McDavid talked a lot about it this summer, and I think this is bold given that in 4-3-1 going into the season, it might have felt like they both could get to 50, but
We're
based on how the
10% of the
season's
way through,
transpired so
right? Like
far,
there's still so
yeah,
much to be played.
there's still so much to be played, but the way McDavid's been going right now, it almost feels like he's going back to being an assist machine. And I'm still hoping he proves me wrong and gets back to 50 goals this year. So I think that they'll both McDavid and Dry will get 50, and that will be on the backs of our power play being number one overall again.
Okay, and Ryan, you're up again.
All right, so well, I'll save my most spicy one for last.
Nice.
But this one's related to Andre Mangiapane. I'm not as high on him as a lot of other people are, so I'm thinking he's going to be on our third line by the time game one of the playoff comes around.
And I don't think that's the worst thing if that happens either, because maybe that means that one or two of the rookies have grabbed a spot in the top six by that point, or they've traded for a better player at the deadline.
Yeah, 100%. So like if Mangiapane is in a top six role, I don't know how far this team's going.
I mean, maybe that's a good thing too. Like if the top six is so strong that he's been pushed down the lineup, like we said, look at Florida, how
Yeah,
good
look
their
at Brad
third line.
Marchand
Maybe
on the
maybe
third
the
line.
Oilers now have a third line that can contribute regularly. So I'm gonna take your prediction from that perspective. I don't know if that's the way you meant it or not, but yeah, let's hope that is a positive if that transpires. All right, and Bob, what is your final prediction?
Oh boy. Okay. This goes against my earlier spot where we're talking about trades. I said we're going to focus on middle six to bottom six forwards. Um, I think the possibility it could be a pipe dream, but here I go. It's going to take a lot of
I mean, it's
Lotsy's
supposed to be a
talent.
bold prediction, right? So
This this gonna Lotsy is gonna have to take out his calculator to make sure this could work somehow. There might
okay.
be other teams involved, but here we go. We're going to get a rental at the trade deadline for that final push. Once we see we're in the playoff spot, we want to make a serious run for this. We're going to go all in. And our final push, we go and rent Evgeny Malkin.
Nice. That
Ooh.
that would be interesting. Even 38-year-old or I guess 39-year-old Evgeny Malkin now. Uh, with the playoff experience he has and the skills that are still there, that could be a decent depth piece for the Oilers.
Bang on. And he wouldn't want to finish his career off with another Stanley Cup. I know everybody looks at Crosby. We all want Crosby. Yeah, of course, I want Crosby as well. I just think Malkin might actually be a bit more realistic than Crosby.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we also talked about trade deadline acquisitions. If he ends up being the forward, I'm not sure that anyone would have seen that coming, but yeah, that would be one to remember. So if you do end up nailing that one correctly, that could be the prediction of the podcast. We'll have to go back to that in March and see. And Raghu, your last one.
Yeah, I was just gonna say it's another one where we need Pittsburgh to. I mean, I never want to root for Crosby's failure because I love Crosby, but
They're off to a good
they
start
they're
too this
six
year.
to they're six
Yeah.
and two to start. So I was gonna say my third one, and I talked about it earlier in the pod though, is that the Oilers will trade for a stud goalie before the trade deadline, and that acquisition, I still think it's Saros, but it could be anybody, is the reason we'll win the cup this year.
I love it. And not to rain on the Penguins parade too much, but I remember in 2011, I believe it was, that the Oilers started something like 9-2. And
Yeah.
is that when Habby Bulin was playing out of this world and
Yes.
had a sub 2 goals per game average? And I thought, okay, we got Hull, we got Nugent Hopkins. Those are our two young pieces to build around. This team is ready to contend. They were not ready to contend. So that was, but they gave me hope for the first 6 weeks of the season. So that was nice. And I was living in Calgary at the time. So it was a big positive that I was able to kind of rub that in the face of Flames fans. But like I said, it didn't last very long. And Ryan, what's your last bold prediction?
So we're going back to the Olympic tournament for this one, but
Two Olympic predictions for Ryan. Okay.
I'm going to say that Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl are going to face off in a semifinal game in the Olympic tournament.
Ooh,
Okay.
that's good.
I like it.
And you just kind of sparked this one. I'll ask everyone now because I just thought of it, but the record for points in one Olympic tournament in the NHL era that they've been participating is 11. Do you think McDavid breaks that record this year?
I'm going to say
Yeah, I was gonna
And
say no.
they can only play a maximum of 6 games, right? 3
Mhm.
round robin games, a quarterfinal, a semifinal, and a gold medal game. So potentially
yeah, sorry, I don't know who you want to answer this one first.
anyone can jump in. I just thought of it off the top of my head, but I'll just say off the start, I think he will. And I mean, part of that is they have France as one of their round robin games. I could see him putting up 5 or 6 against France alone, and then I think he'll have a big game against one of the top countries when they get into the playoff round.
He might break the record just against France.
On the big ice, I mean those defenders have never seen anything like him in their league. So, like I remember if in 2022 Canada played China in the round robin. Obviously, there wasn't Olymp or NHL participation, but what do you think a realistic score would have been between Canada and China if they had gone? Like, is 30-0 out of the realm of possibility? I'm not even joking.
No, no, I don't think so.
I honestly think what would have happened is it would have been 20-0 after the second period, and they would have take their foot off the gas for the third. That's how I think it would have went. I think they would have tried not to embarrass them anymore. But if they just went balls to the wall, first power play unit over the boards every time that they got a man advantage, I honestly think they could have run it up to 30-0.
Probably.
Yeah. All right. Olympic talk aside, we'll move on now because I know we all want to watch Game 2 of the World Series, and I appreciate you guys hanging with me for this. And as I do each year, like I'll just quickly do my final three here, and they're all McDavid predictions. I'm starting off with McDavid will not only set a career high in points, which I already mentioned this year, he'll join Wayne Gretzky and Mario Lemieux as the only players in NHL history to score 50 goals and 100 assists in a single season. I mean, like, or I should say to do it multiple times. Or no, not apologies. He has done both of these milestones, but he didn't have 100 assists the year that he got 150 points. So he'll now do all of them in the 1 year, because when he did have his 150 point season, he only had 89 assists. I'm saying he's going to have 50 goals and 100 assists in the same season. And for the second one, I predict that McDavid will also join Gretzky as the only players in NHL history to record multiple 40-point playoff years. He had that incredible season where he hit 42 points in 2024. I think he'll get there again, obviously en route to the Cup. And lastly, I predict that McDavid will become the first player to ever win 5 individual awards in one season, including the Art Ross Trophy, the Hart Memorial Trophy, the Ted Lindsay Award, the Conn Smythe Trophy, and the Mark Messier Leadership Award. That's one that he's never won before, and I think this is the year that he gets that, partly for leaving money on the table to help his team win, but also it's very rare that a captain leads their team to 3 straight Stanley Cup final appearances, which he has the potential to do this year. It's even more rare for the captain of a Canadian team to do it. So that's something that we haven't seen in the last 40 plus years. So I think that he will earn the Mark Messier Leadership Award for that. And I just hope that the photographer at the NHL Awards next summer has a camera lens wide enough to get all the trophies in one shot. But yeah, that's my big one that I think that we'll see happen next June. And that leads me into my next question for you guys is which Oilers players do you think will either win or be a finalist for an award this season? Raghu?
Yeah, so for awards, I really only had 5, but I've got McDavid nominated for the Lindsay, but winning the Hart. Because I just, despite what he does, we saw like an interesting Lindsay winner just this past season. I've got Savoy nominated for the Calder. I've got Dry winning the Selke this year. Again, like I said earlier in the pod, because Barkov's not there. But I think Dry is going to be good enough to finally win that thing. And then Bouchard getting nominated for the Norris.
All right. And Ryan, how many Oilers will be at the NHL Awards next year?
So I've got 2 Oilers at the ceremony. I think McDavid gets nominated for the Hart and the Lindsay. I feel like he should be there every year. And I'll say Leon gets nominated for the Selke, but neither guy's gonna win any awards.
Oh, you don't think he's winning the Art Ross this year either?
No.
Okay. I mean, with 118, that would have been enough for second last year. So you're saying he's going to get 118, I think your prediction was. So he should at least be in the running for it.
I mean, it'd be in the conversation, but there's no nominees in the Art
No,
Ross
there
race.
isn't.
There's
You're
only
right.
winners.
Nope. Correct. Okay. And Bob, go ahead.
I only have one winner, and that's Draisaitl is going to win the Rocket. Actually, I think him and Austin Matthews will tie for the Rocket. I have Draisaitl being nominated for the Selke, McDavid being nominated for the Hart and the Lindsay. I didn't even think about the Mark Messier Award. You know what? I'm going to go on board with you on that one, Eric. I think McDavid might win that Messier Award.
All right.
And I also had Bouchard actually nominated for the Norris, but he's going to have to pick up his game quite a bit here after the first
For
season.
sure.
I agree.
I mean, if he does ever win or become a finalist for it, it is going to be on the back of his offensive contributions. But I mean, realistically, that's who wins the Norris every year, anyways. So I mean, it's not like they're looking at Jacob Slavin for the Norris every year. It's going to mostly be whoever leads the league in points by a defenseman, unless someone maybe gets hurt and they had a better points per game average, except for in 2021 when Tyson Barrie led the NHL in points by a defenseman and became the first defenseman to ever do that and not receive one first place vote for the Norris. So that's that was no, exactly. That was the one exception. So I guess they did kind of maybe dock him for his defensive play a little bit there. But so obviously I've already said the awards that I think McDavid is going to win. I also think Draisaitl will win his second straight Rocket Richard Trophy, and Knobloch will be a finalist for the Jack Adams Award. I think that, you know, you look at, he's 2 wins away from becoming the 6th fastest coach in NHL history to reach 100 wins. If he takes his team on another deep run, you have to think that he's going to get recognized at some point. I'd like Bush to finally get nominated for the Norris. I'm not sure if this will be the year that it happens. It feels like it's almost going to take a couple more of these 80-point years before he finally gets at least in the final 3, because I mean, as long as Makar stays healthy and Hughes, those two are going to be right up there year after year contending for it. All right. And that brings me now to my final question for you guys tonight. How far do you think the Oilers will go in the 2026 playoffs? Which teams will they play in each series along the way? And how many games will the final series go? Ryan, make the call.
All right. So, I mean, I said that Oilers 2, Seattle 3 in the Pacific Division. So that's your first round matchup. Oilers win that one in 5, I'm going to say. Then we get a round 2 rematch with the Vegas Golden Knights. And this is where I think the line ends for the Oilers this year. Unfortunately, as much as it pains me to say it, because I very strongly dislike the Golden Knights, and we know where my loyalty lies with the Oilers. But I think the Oilers will lose in 6 to the Golden Knights, just like they did in 23.
Bob, how far do you think the Oilers are going to go next spring?
This is the part of the podcast that I was dreading. I mean, we always give Lottie a tough time that he's anti-Oilers underneath his pro-Oiler persona. I think, unfortunately, this is the one year we take a step forward or a step backwards to leap forward the following season.
Okay.
I do have the Oilers and Kings meeting in the first round, but I do think this is the Kings year where they beat us in 7 games. And then next year we'll have that much more experience for the new guys, the young guys, and re-sign contracts and stuff, and then we're gonna go for the following season. But I hate to be this guy, but here I am. Oilers out the first round by the Kings in 7 games.
So if that means that they're done by the end of April, that would give them basically a 5.5-month break before training camp starts in September. Do you think that extra maybe month and a half that they haven't had the last couple of years will also benefit them of just the extra rest time?
Well, a 5.5-month break is a longer break than they had the last 2 years combined, pretty much. So yeah, it can only help. And in the end, these guys, especially our big guys, they're carrying such a load, and rightly so. I mean, if I'm the coach, I'm riding these guys too. That's what they're there for. It takes a toll eventually. This isn't a long-term thing. We're still in our window. We're still going to be a Stanley Cup contender. It's just a 1 step forward, 10 steps, or 1 step backwards, 10 steps forward kind of thing.
Okay, and Raghu, the last prediction of the night goes to you.
Yeah, so for me, I think I had Vancouver third, so I've got an Oilers Vancouver rematch. I do think we're gonna beat Vancouver pretty easily in round one. Um, but I've got the Oilers going all the way to the Cup final again. So I've got obviously Vegas round two because we had them winning the Pacific. I just think it's going to be a tougher path across these rounds this time around.
Right.
So I'm being the optimistic side where I have the Oilers winning against Vegas in seven. And then instead of a rematch with the Stars, I think the Avalanche are going to turn it around and play us again in the Western Conference final. And this will be once again revenge time for us, but another 7 game thriller. And then I've got us actually going to the Stanley Cup finals in the same prediction I made last year, where it will be us against the New Jersey Devils. I think this year they won't be hindered by the injuries like they were last year, and we will win the Stanley Cup final in our third return appearance in 6 games.
All right. I like that. And I mean, after dropping the first 2 games against the Kings last year, they went on a 13-2 run before reaching the Stanley Cup, or I think that was actually including, sorry, game one of the Stanley Cup final. So you can't expect to go on that type of run in the playoffs every year. I mean, that's one of the all time runs through the first 3 rounds. But
Yeah.
to get back to it for a third straight time, as daunting of a task as that's going to be, I just think that this team knows how to get it done at that time of year, even with the pieces they lost. And we still think that there will be additions made throughout the season. So
Yep.
I hope that your prediction is right there. And
I
since,
was gonna I was just gonna add though,
yeah,
if Bob is right and we play LA in round one,
yeah.
I do think we would lose to them. I do think that would happen.
Well, I sure hope you're right, Raghu, and not me.
Yes, I know, me too.
I
For
just think,
shame, boys, for
yeah,
shame.
exactly. The Oilers, the Oilers have the Kings number, and I mean, even though they do have some young pieces, and I mean, Byfield's coming along, and I think the Oilers know how to beat that team. And the biggest thing is when the Kings leading scorer comes in with like 73 points a year, they just don't have the horses to compete when the Oilers can throw McDavid and Draisaitl over the boards. And until they get that 100-point player, I don't see it happening where they're going to be able to topple
Yeah.
the Oilers come playoff time. And since I have the Oilers winning the Pacific Division, I think they will face one of the wild card teams in the first round, and that'll be the Minnesota Wild, which I have the Oilers beating. Then they'll knock out the Vegas Golden Knights in the second round for the second straight year. And Raghu, I'm on the same page as you. I think then the Oilers will eliminate the Colorado Avalanche in the Western Conference Final. And 20 years after their heartbreaking loss to the Carolina Hurricanes in the 2006 Stanley Cup Final, the Oilers will avenge that defeat by beating the Hurricanes in 6 games to bring the cup back to Edmonton for the first time since 1990. And McDavid finally gets his hands on Lord Stanley's mug. So that, I think, is the best way I can end this podcast tonight, with a positive there. And let's hope that we can will that into existence. Guys, I just want to say thank you for joining me on the show tonight. As I said, this is one of the most fun episodes I get to do every season. I appreciate all of you guys for joining me for it. And I can't wait to see how many of these predictions we get right, maybe 8 months from now. And before we sign off, where can people follow you on Twitter? Anyone go?
Okay, I'll go. Well, first off, thanks a lot, Eric. This is also one of my favorite shows to go on, especially the season preview one. So I appreciate the invite.
Thanks, man.
Once again, although right now I'm batting 0 for my predictions, I think, but still a
Well, for
fun
the
ride to
bold
go on.
ones, I mean, you're gonna get one of them eventually.
Um, yeah, I'm pretty active on Twitter. I'm at Bob Goalie 1, and the only reason why there's a 1 is because I forgot my password to at Bob Goalie a long time ago. So at Bob Goalie 1, you can find me there for all my educated and uneducated takes on hockey. So
And
thanks
you
again,
were
Eric.
no problem. You were a former #1 goalie, so it works.
There you go.
And
On his Pee Wee team.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, and you can yeah, and thanks Eric. I love doing this pod with all three of you guys every year. It's really fun because we all have unique takes on the team, and it's just good to hear different perspectives because we're all Oilers fans. even with Lotzi being that pretend one, as we always
No,
joke about.
I've seen
No,
Ryan
I'm totally
decked out.
kidding. I'm totally
He's
kidding.
decked out in Oilers swag every time he's on
100% he
Oilers
is.
Lives. Like,
It's just joshing around.
yeah.
But yeah, you can find me at Raj Bauer for all my crazy hockey takes as well.
For sure. And yeah, great to have you back on the podcast too, Raghu. And Ryan.
Yeah, you can find all my anti-Oilers. I'm just kidding. You can find all my Oilers-related takes on X at Lotsryan, Lotsryan. And heavyhockey.com. I write a ton of articles on there. So there's always something new for you guys to look at and check out on there. And starting very, very soon, if you tuned into the last episode of Oilers Live last Wednesday, the Heavy Hockey Network is making some changes to our podcast formatting. So we got a new show coming out ASAP called the Heavy Hockey Podcast. And I know a lot of you guys will be a part of it as well. It's not just going to be me, it's going to be the whole Heavy Hockey crew participating in that show as it goes on. So I'm really excited to get that going, and you'll be hearing a lot more of all of our voices, along with Michael Hebert and Dash and Patrick the Oil Fanatic and Kevin McCurdy and Josh at Tough Call as well.
Definitely. We got such a great team here, and I can't wait for that to get going. And Ryan, I know you mentioned that you write a lot. I'm sure you'll have a new article out before the game tonight, even. But what have you got working on right now that people can expect?
And nothing before the game tonight, but I do have a piece coming out about how Knobloch is managing his ice time, and we're going to do a little bit of a deep dive into the Oilers' past and see if there's any trends that we can take from that and how we can apply that logic to how the kids are getting treated this year and how I expect them to be treated this coming season. So that one's still taking some shape. I'm hoping to get that one out early next week, though.
Okay, so everyone, please go read that when it does come up on the website. And guys, I just want to say thanks again for being on the podcast. Please give all of these awesome guys a follow. You can also follow me at Eric J. Friesen. You can follow the 99 Forever podcast at 99 Forever Pod. Guys, have a good night, and let's hope the Oilers can get a winning streak started tonight, and as well as the Blue Jays maybe go up 2-0. So thanks, guys, again.
Go Jays.
Let's go Jays, and let's go Oilers.
Have a good night, man.
So for Ryan Lotsberg, Bob Schmidt, and Raghu Sharma, I'm Eric Friesen. This has been the 99 Forever podcast. We're out.